Krishna. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Śrīla Prabhupada, Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Śrīla Prabhupada. His divine grace, A.C. Bhakti-rasāmṛta Sindhu Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Saṅgaṁ Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhavakacharya Satta Shishamadi. Bhakti-rasāmṛta Saraswati Gosvāmī Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva, Sadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa, Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Yamuna Maya ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta-vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. So we're reading from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we're in chapter 5. And the text I'm doing tonight is 11. Kāyena manasā buddhyā kevalair indriyair yoginaḥ kurvanti saṅgam tyaktvātma-śuddhaye kāyena manasā buddhyā kevalair indriyair yoginaḥ kurvanti saṅgam tyaktvātma-śuddhaye kāyena manasā buddhyā kevalair indriyair yoginaḥ kurvanti saṅgam tyaktvātma-śuddhaye. Vaisnavis.
Kāyena manasā buddhyā
Anyone else? Word for word, kāyena, with the body, manasā, with the mind, buddhyā, with the intelligence, kevalair, purified, indriyair, with the senses, even, yoginaḥ, Krishna conscious persons, karma, actions, kurvanti, they perform, saṅgam, attachment, tyaktvā, giving up, ātma, of the self, śuddhaye, for the purpose of purification. Translation by His Divine Grace, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Śrī Prabhupada. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Please repeat. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. When one acts in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sad-ācāra, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Śrī Rūpa Gosvāmī in his Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu 1-187 describes this as follows. Iyahashahare karmana manasā gira yogās vapyasvashtasu jivan mukta sa-ucate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. He has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is this material body, or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body, and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession, to Krishna's service, he's at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Om yena tamaranda shagana gana salakaya takshramalitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Śrī Rūpa Gosvāmī Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisapam Cha Shri Rupam Sagvajatam Zagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Kṛṣṇa Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kapya Surubhascha Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, let me find my place again. So, 5:11. So this chapter 5 is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So I'll just give a little overview, and I'm going to read the previous one, number 10, just to get some continuity from one to the other. So, this is the second time that Arjuna has asked a question related to the same thing that he's asking here in chapter 5. In chapter 3, which is entitled Karma Yoga, Arjuna is confused, so he's asking Krishna. He wants to know which of the two, renunciation and action, which is better. In that verse 1 in chapter 3, he says to Krishna, if you think buddhi is better than karma, why do you want me to fight? So then here again, we have in verse 1 of this chapter, he's asking a similar question. He's asking, the question here is, which is better, renunciation of work or working with detachment? And he's actually thinking that sannyas should be altogether free from all kinds of activity because work and renunciation appear to be mutually incompatible to him. So then Krishna begins explaining that the two are not necessarily contradictory. He's saying, and they're the same, but karma yoga is easier to perform. A nice karma yogi. Nice karma means one who's not taking actions that will produce good or bad results. So this yogi can be a true yogi. And he's freed from all bondage and he can attain liberation. So I was reading in the Gita Subodhini. This was written by a devotee from, I think he's from Chowpatty, his name is Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. And he explains, I was reading simply to understand that, for me, I read it so I could understand better what this question was of Arjuna and how Krishna was answering it. And he's saying the spirit of renunciation in work, which is sannyas and karma. That's the sannyas and karma, but not the renunciation of work is sannyas as karma. So there's a difference here. So he says performing work with renunciation is superior to inaction in knowledge, which makes karma superior to jnana. And in Bhagavad Gita 3:4, it says, na karmanam anarbam, nais karmyam purushosnute, nata sanyasanad eva, siddhim samadhikachati. Not by merely abstaining from work, one can achieve freedom from reaction. Nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So then Krishna goes on to explain this concept deeper in this chapter that we're in now. So in this chapter, so the question was verse number 1, and then briefly, the verses 2 through 6 in this chapter, Krishna is talking about karma yoga equal to but easier than sannyas. And then in verses 7 through 16 in this chapter, he says performing this karma yoga frees one from bondage. And then in verses 17 through 29, he's saying that liberation is obtained by focusing on the Supreme. So that's just a brief overview of what this chapter is about. So I want to just bring out some of the points that were spoken about in text 10. So in text 10, it said that the material world is a sum total manifestation of three modes of material nature, and that's technically called the pradhan. Then everything in the material world is a manifestation of Brahman. Although the effects are differently manifested, they are non-different from the cause. Everything related to Krishna. Thus, everything belongs to Krishna. He is the supreme proprietor, and one who knows this perfectly well, therefore engages everything in his service. He thinks, near mama, nothing is mine, nothing belongs to me. So we came here with nothing, and we're going to leave with nothing. And anything we have that we're using, anything we have in our possession is not ours. It should all be used in the service of Krishna. So this person who thinks is this way, that he wants to engage everything in Krishna's service, he has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. And this material body is a gift. It's a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action. If used in Krishna consciousness, it is beyond contamination by sinful reactions. So the conclusion of this verse, number 10, is that with the lack of Krishna consciousness, the actions are done according to the concept of the material body and the senses. And in Krishna consciousness, it means acting according to knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should be engaged in the service of Krishna. So now we're on to the text we're reading today, the one we're talking about today, or attempting to talk about with all the devotees' blessings. If you'll help me, share this verse. So, acting in Krishna consciousness is for the senses of Krishna. He is Hrishikesh. He's the master of all our senses. So since we're all parts and parcels of the Lord, Mamae Vamsa Jiva Loke Jiva Buddhyā. So therefore, everyone's senses also belong to Krishna. And using the senses for Krishna's service, we can attain the perfection of life. Hrishikena Hrishikesha Sarvaram Bhakti Uchyate. When by our senses, Hrishikena, we serve Hrishikesh, the real master of the senses, that service is called bhakti. Using our senses for sense gratification means that we're in Maya. This is the cause of our bondage. So, whether with either or all, the mind, the body, intelligence, or even the senses, the effect being purification of material contamination. So how are we getting purified? What is the process of our purification? So we are chanting. First, the most important thing, first we're hearing and we're chanting. So the most important thing is hearing and then chanting. And we receive this process from our spiritual masters down through the systemic succession, coming from Lord Chaitanya, who gave us this Mahamantra. I'm sorry? No, it's hearing. I've been reading, the hearing is first, then the chanting. The chanting is the hearing is very important too.
How can we hear without chanting?
Well, when we're hearing, that's also Sankirtan. That's also Sankirtan, hearing and chanting. If you would like, about the hearing process, if you're reading in History of Bhagavatam or even in the Gita, he stresses about the hearing. If we hadn't heard from our spiritual master, how would we know about chanting? It's hearing, right. Thank you. So we need to be purified. That's why we're chanting and that's why we're hearing. So, and so that means that no resultant material reactions come from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. And the purified activities, and generally called sad-ācāra, can easily be performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Now, this sad-ācāra is the ethical and spiritual standards by which we conduct this life in Krishna consciousness. And in fact, it's so important that the VHE has a whole course on this subject of sad-ācāra, which was put together by Mother Lavanga Lata, who's here with us today. So the VIT is offering that course because our behavior as Vaishnavas is very important. And the one person who always talked about etiquette, who talked about how to conduct our lives as Vaishnavas, how to treat one another. It's an actual culture. And that was His Holiness Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, who we know was a very, very cultured Vaishnava. So he talked a lot about sad-ācāra, and that sad-ācāra should be observed by everyone in the Krishna consciousness movement, from management on down. How to treat one another, what is it all about, how we should act, what we should do, So the person who's acting thus, in this way, he has no false ego, which is said in the Purport, for he does not believe that he's the material body or that he possesses a body. He himself belongs to Krishna. So everything produced of the body, mind, words, intelligence, life, wealth, as it is said, whatever's in its position, then, we use it in Krishna's service. So we have to be devoid of false ego. We have a true ego. But the false ego first identifies itself as the body. Then that false ego expands itself to the false concept of my wife, my husband, my children, I'm this particular nationality, I'm black, I'm white, I'm a woman, I'm man. It expands to society and our country. And this entangles a living entity in bondage in the material world. And this was Arjuna's dilemma, and this is what Krishna was trying to bring him out of, because Arjuna was lamenting that he had to kill all of his relatives. He was identifying them as relatives, not following Krishna's plan, not understanding Krishna's plan until Krishna, until he accepted Krishna as his spiritual master and then revealed his confusion and accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. And this is how the Gita was written, so that we could all, as living entities, understand what is our actual position in this material world and what we should do getting out of the material world, and how to understand everything that's happening in this material world. We're the eternal servants of Krishna, and everything belongs to him, so we offer it all back to him. And it says at the end, this is the perfection of our life in Krishna consciousness. And so as I was reading this, I was thinking about how do we reach this stage of the perfection in this process. How do we revive our original Krishna consciousness? Because it's there, it just has to be revived. So we get in the shower of Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, which are most important, along with the other processes like remembering and worshiping the deities and going to holy places. So also we need to sincerely desire to go home, to go back home, to be with Krishna, to become his servants again. So this process of hearing, Prabhupada says throughout his Śrīmad Bhagavatam that we have to hear. We should hear patiently and submissively from a pure devotee. And we know that's in 343. Patipane. Listen to him. 43 or 34? I had it backwards. 34. Thank you. Chapter 4, 34. So we have to hear submissively, not with, a lot of pride, not with a challenging atmosphere. We're coming to him because we want him to enlighten us. So we have to be submissive, and we have to hear what he has to tell us. So Paramatma can be felt by, this is in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, first canto. It says that, 233, that in the Purport, Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting. To sincerely hear about Krishna is the actual pleasure of the senses. I was thinking about how many of us have gone to classes, and we just thought it was a wonderful class. There were so many nice points to make, but when we go out and someone asks you what, and you say it was such a nice class, and then they ask us, well, what did the person say in the class? What were the points that that you were excited about? Sometimes we don't remember what it was, what the points were. So in this vein, I wanted to say, I heard this story in a Gita class, and I want to share it. And I want to see if I remember all of it as well, but I want to share it with you. It's a very nice story. It's about a thief. So this thief, he was running away from the police. And he ran into a hall in the village that they were having a Bhagavad Gita. And so he sat in the class, and then he covered himself up so when the police were looking, they wouldn't see him there. So as he was listening, the reciter, who was reciting this Bhagavad Gita, he was in ecstasy, talking about Krishna and Krishna's pastimes with Mother Yashoda, and Krishna's life as a little boy with Mother Yashoda, the pastimes between Krishna and Mother Yashoda. And he was describing, the Gita speaker was describing how Krishna was wearing all this expensive, beautiful jewelry, the type of jewelry you couldn't get anywhere at all. You couldn't find it. It was so opulent and so beautiful. So the thief was getting more and more interested. He was it really caught his attention because his nature was a thief, and he was thinking, wow, I'd like to have that jewelry. How can I get it? So he went up to after the kata was over, he went up to the reciter and asked, who is this boy you're talking about? Who is this person? And the person said, oh, his name is Krishna. And then he said, what were the ornaments you said he was wearing? What was he wearing? So the speaker again started describing the opulence of the jewelry and how you can't even find it in the Vaikuntha planets. You can't even buy one of Krishna's earrings. So then the thief was getting more excited. He was like, really? He said, that's so interesting. Where does this boy live? Where can I find him? And so the Kata speaker said, he lives in Vrindavan. So you just go to Vrindavan and chant his name very loudly, and he'll come. And then the thief became more excited. So he started for Vrindavan. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go Vrindavan. And in his mind, he kept thinking about the jewelry and the stories that the person who was speaking about Krishna, the pastimes with Mother Yashoda, and this was going through his mind the whole time he was on his way to Vrindavan. He was remembering the boy's name. Oh, his name is Krishna. Oh yes, his name, the mother's name is Yashoda. I have to remember that. So then, he remembered description. His complexion was bluish. He described his complexion as being bluish, and he herds the cows. So all these pastimes were going in the mind of the thief because he had been listening very intently, especially when he heard about the jewelry. So that made him like really listen so he could find Krishna because he wanted to steal the jewelry. And then he developed this hankering in his heart. I want to see this boy. I want to see Krishna. So because of his hankering, he found Krishna when he went to Vrindavan. He went to the bank of the Yamuna and he found Krishna there with his cowherd friends, you know, standing on the banks. And so the thief ran up to Krishna, you know. And then because Krishna was so beautiful, the thief became bewildered. He was kind of like, didn't know what to do. So when he came, he said, "You're so beautiful." And his whole mood started changing because he was in the association of Krishna. He forgot about his ferocious nature because a thief is a thief. He'll do anything to steal something. But his mood was changing because he was standing in front of Krishna. He was actually seeing Krishna. And so when he saw his beauty, he started to become a little docile. He was like, okay, I'm in front of Krishna. And so when he approached Krishna, he melted a little bit, his ferocious nature. So he became soft. But he said to Krishna, "Boy, you're so beautiful." And then Krishna replied, "Thank you." And then he asked Krishna, "Your mother's name is Yashoda?" Krishna says, "Yes, Yashoda is my mother." And then the thief asked, "Can I get some of those ornaments you're wearing?" And Krishna says, "No." And the thief says, "Why? Why can't I get it?" And Krishna says, "Because my mother, she'll be angry upon me. If I come home with any jewelry missing, she's going to get upset. She's going to get mad." And then the thief starts pleading, "Please, please, please, can I have the jewelry? Can I?" That's not usually the mood. He forgot his whole nature as a thief, and he started begging, "Please, please, please, can I have the jewelry? Can I have the jewelry?" And Krishna said, "No." So this conversation went on for some time, but in the meantime, the thief, upon seeing Krishna's transcendental form and being in his association, he got completely purified in his intelligence. He lost his thinking as a thief. And then he even wondered, why did I want that jewelry anyway? So he completely forgot his ill motive and he became a great devotee of Krishna. So this is, for a thief, this was a result of his intent hearing. He was so intent on hearing, you know, that he remembered everything about Krishna. So we too, we hearing, we have to intently hear. You know, so for me, sometimes I know I forget what I heard in class, so from now I've been writing notes to try to go over them and remember what I'm hearing about Krishna. Because the classes have been very, very nectarian. So I've been writing down so I can hear. So we'll go back to one of the other purification processes is chanting. So, as I said before, this chanting also is a very important process given to us. That's another aspect of the purification. So simply by chanting, one attracts the attention of the Lord. And then our memory of Krishna is revived by chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we awaken our dormant Krishna consciousness by chanting and our loving service to the Lord. So attentive chanting, though, we need to do attentive chanting. And that waters the seas of our devotional service. There should be a quality of feeling in our chanting. actually calling and being attentive. And there should be also, as Lord Chaitanya said in his Shikshashtakam, I think it's verse 3, that we should chant the name of the Lord in all humility. And that's the only way we can do offenseless chanting, by being humble, because Krishna and his holy name are non-different. So that means we're coming in the presence of Krishna when we're chanting his holy name. It's said in that sloka that one should chant the name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. So we need to give him our full attention. And I have to share an experience I had recently. I lost, or it was taken, I don't know what happened, my phone. So, and I had that phone for about maybe almost a year. But previous to that, I had another phone, and that also was stolen in the temple. So this means that for me, this is between myself and Krishna. He's taken my phone away so that I can focus more on chanting and hearing and reading. Because when we chant, that should be a time that we spend with Krishna. It's only 2 hours out of 24, or maybe 2.5. And we're trying to establish a relationship. When we want to establish a relationship with anyone, say our husband or our wife or our children, we take time out to give them quality time, because we say we love them. So that means we have to give them our full attention when they need it, when they want it. We have to give them our full attention and pay attention and sit down and hear what they have to say or what they have to share, what they need. So the same way, when we see Krishna as a person, it means that we want to be with him. We want to share ourselves with him. We want to establish our relationship. We want to develop love of Krishna. So that means that we are taking that time out. So we shouldn't be looking at our phones or talking or anything. We just set aside this time and say, I'm going to be with you, Krishna. And even if our chanting, sometimes we have difficulties. I know for me it becomes dry sometimes, or I have a hard time getting started, or sometimes it's not until I get to the 8th round that I'm finally settled into the chanting, because the mind goes all over the place. So these two, the chanting and the hearing and the chanting and the other processes, are what can help us, just surrender all to Krishna and give him everything and make him the pivotal point in our lives. So I'd like to end the class here and open it up to questions, corrections, anything, corrections, criticisms, whatever one you'd like. If there are any, please. Hare Krishna.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in this verse, Krishna talks about the people in Krishna consciousness acting for the purification.
I hope I can answer your question. Haribo.
In this verse, Krishna talks about the yogis, or the people in Krishna consciousness, acting only for purification. But we know that our goal, ultimately, is to act for Krishna's pleasure. So can you comment about how we get from acting for purification, which is easier to understand, to acting for Krishna's pleasure?
I'm not sure that I have the exact answer for that of your question. We can put it out to but This stage of acting purely for Krishna is for the pure devotee. And as for me, I'm in the stage of getting purified, trying to get purified. So I'm in the process of purification, but the pure devotee is already there.
So this is, I mean, we're on a state of niskama yoga, right? So it is basically sadhana bhakti.
Sadhana bhakti, yes. We're practicing.
This chapter is talking about sadhana bhakti, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Action in Krishna.
Yes.
It's not talking about
Pure devotees. I'm just a sadhaka practicing to be a devotee. But we have pure devotees. And those are the ones we hear from, like yourself. Yes, because we know that we have mixed devotion as well. You know, like I was always asking this question, like for instance, we know what Krishna likes to eat, right? But sometimes when we go to the store, we don't get what Krishna likes to eat. We shop for bhoga. Sometimes we get something that we're attracted to, but we just want to offer it.
Something that our stomach
Yes, can digest. But we're not, we read what Krishna likes to eat, we know, no, but we're not doing that. We have mixed devotion, even though he says, so he says for us, you can offer a leaf or a flower or water, you know.
Prabhupada told the devotees here that we should feed Krishna 5 types of samosa, 5 types of pakora, and
Can't digest.
we find that is so.
But Krishna can, and also I remember the story about Śrī Prabhupada about sugar. He's like, Krishna likes sugar because some of his devotees were into healthy. Let's do healthy, get rid of sugar and this, but Krishna can digest anything he wants. And he likes sweets. And he likes pakoras and fried foods, which I can't eat anymore. And lots of ghee, which can give the human body fatty liver. You know, so we're in mixed devotion, but we're practicing and we're trying to get to that stage of just being a lover of Krishna and pleasing him only. I mean, I don't think for me, I'm not chanting to please Krishna. Sometimes I'm chanting because I need to chant.
Actually, you can see from Śrīla Prabhupada's life and from the spiritual masters' life how they can actually eat things that they're not supposed to eat because they're eating the Krishna's food.
Yes.
Their body can cope with it because they're on a different level.
They're on another platform. Thank you. Thank you for your input. Anyone else?
Prabhupada said, the Lord has said, but he said the question asking, give me Dhamma and give Patram
And give both? Well, when we read about the activities, even when we read about the activities of Lord Chaitanya, we read about the activities of Krishna, there's so many descriptions of the type of things that they're eating. I know he says that's, you know, for us practicing, we can give that. He can accept it if that's all you have. But if you have more, don't just give him pushpam phalamatoyam, give him more because you have more. If you have more, don't be miserly. Give more.
That is the bare minimum.
That's the bare minimum. I mean, pushpam. He's giving that to someone who cannot do the person who doesn't have much can't say that he can't find water, he can't find a leaf. He can go out and pick a flower. It's true, it's the least. But we can, if we have the means, we fill it up. Bhakti, yes. Offer with love and devotion. He accepts that because Krishna doesn't need anything. What does he need? What type of things does he have in the spiritual world that we can even match? We can't. The little paltry stuff that we're offering, it has to be with love because first of all, it doesn't belong to us. It's like the father pays for everything for the children. He gives the child some money and the child goes and buys something and then comes back and gives it to the father and said, look what I bought for you. But he got the money from the father. But the father still, because out of love, the little boy thought of giving something to his father with something that the father gave to him. So that's us.
What stage is pure devotee? What stage is pure devotee into? Like how we come to like you said, that pure devotee is contaminated. What stage is pure devotee into? Can you know?
What stage?
What is the stage of pure devotee? What mode he is into?
What?
How he walks, how he is telling whether he goes to Krishna or stage.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing.
How do you know stage of pure devotees?
How do we know?
Pure devotees stage. Stage of pure devotees.
You can just see by their actions. Their whole life is dedicated only. You can see the example of Srila Prabhupada. That's how we know. He's a pure devotee. What did he do? Who could spread this process all over the world? Who? You have the example right there of Srila Prabhupada. Who could do that? He went, how many times? In 11 years, he went 14 times around the world to spread this movement. If you read anything about Srila Prabhupada and the details of his life, I always encourage devotees, please read about Srila Prabhupada's life. It's so important. It's so important. Then you can understand what he sacrificed for us to be here. To come here and give us this process, and it's still rolling like a river. He never thought about his body or his sickness or his heart attacks or anything pertaining to the body. If I get one little cut, I'm like, that hurts. We are aware of it, but Prabhupada ignored it all and established the mission given to him by his spiritual master. That was his focus. So read about Srila Prabhupada. Read about the struggles he went through when he first came to America, what he went through. It's hard for us to go through different things. We get an anxiety. We don't have enough faith in Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada was convicted, he was convinced, he knows Krishna. Krishna personally spoke to him when he was giving these purports. So you have to read about Srila Prabhupada and know that we have a long way to go. We can just follow in his footsteps, but we can't imitate. And there's lots of pure devotees that are doing the same thing in Prabhupada's name. So there's no lack of pure devotees, you see by their actions. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Is it 7? Am I going over? It's okay.
So Mataji talked about the thief, and then he said that he became a pure devotee. So how do we, from when can we find out more about this? Do you know the name of this person who became a Vaishnava? And we can find out about what he did later than he said that?
You want to know about the thief and how he became?
No,
What's his
he
name?
became, how he became.
Oh, this was a pastime told by, I was listening to, his name is Balagovinda. I think he's from Jalpati, and he was giving a Gita class. And I just liked the story so much that I wanted to share it. But there's more to the story, which I didn't tell. There's more to the story because he goes back to the village, and other things happen after that. He meets with the Krishna, the person who was giving the Bhagavad Gita class. So I can give you that information if you want to hear it.
Yes, he goes back and then he says, I found them. This is not possible. How do we find them?
Yeah, and he didn't believe it.
Krishna, but he was able to see Krishna. I know that part.
Yes.
But I'm saying that this person becomes a good devotee. What was his name and how did he live his life? Do you know any about that?
Yeah, no, I don't know. He didn't tell that part. He just told this part because it was related to what he was talking about in the Gita.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Then the fact the word heard the speech of Gita Hariman. I know this, and I'm forgetting his name.
Oh, Balagovinda. His name is Balagovinda.
No, the thief has a name.
Oh, the thief. The point was just the gist of the story, you know, not necessarily the thief's name, but the point was the hearing, how the thief was hearing so intently, and this is what we need to do. That's what I was trying to get across, is that we need to listen that intently and remember Krishna.
Moreover, Mataji believed every word that was spoken by the preacher. You know, he had faith in the words, and that is the reason he went in search of Krishna.
Yes.
He believed it.
He believed it.
As a story. He believed it as he's actually there right now, and I will find him. He had the faith.
You know, there's a comparable story that happened with Srila Prabhupada and this devotee named Haridas. He saw a picture of Srila Prabhupada wearing a gold watch. You know that story, no? He was a thief as well. And he only went to see Srila Prabhupada because he wanted to steal that watch. But he became a devotee by Prabhupada's association.
There is another story like that, where there was a person who went around stealing things, and when he went to one place, he didn't find anything there, and he said, oh my God, this is not fair, how do I not find anything? So he finds a Bhagavad Gita, and he sees Bhagavad Gita. After some days, people come to know that this person is not going out and stealing anymore. What is he doing? So he's reading the Bhagavad Gita, and he becomes a devotee by reading Bhagavad Gita. And then he becomes a good distributor because he knew where the wealth is, and so he went to the other rich people to sell the Gita.
Thank you. So we'll end the Gita class now. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.
Okay.